Welcome to Real Money Talks. Real strategies from the moneymakers and the world changers that you can use to make millions, keep those millions, multiply your wealth, and build your team. Here's your host, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View, Laurel Langmeyer.
Hi, this is Laurel, and welcome to Laurel's Real Money Talks, the podcast that talks about how to make money, how to keep it, and how to get it invested. And what's amazing and exciting about this time in our lives is if we weren't part of the .com and thought you'd missed, one of the opportunities in a lifetime, but you actually have a huge opportunity to learn about the new 3. October, we're going to be in Las Vegas, and my cannabis team is going to be there. We've invited blockchain and digital currency experts. And then again, for those of you that are in our Big Table Mastermind, we will be together in November. So really exciting times. And those of you who are listening to our podcast and can't join, go to Ask Laurel, AskLoral.com. Put in your name, phone number, and your email. Just request some of the audio and the video files that will be coming out of those events. So we look forward to sharing it with you wherever you are around the world. So today I have Don Beavers with me. He's from Probability and Statistics. And when I first met him, he said, I do math, like really great math. So what he really does is his company does blockchain and just knows a lot about the ICO and the crypto space that we're headed into. It's an exciting time to be part of 3 big new industries that are going to change the planet and the way we work with money. So, Don, welcome first to Laurel's Real Money Talks.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
And, before we really get into your background and the story, our audience, we have a lot of accredited investors, a lot of savvy investors. People have heard about blockchain, but I really don't think they have a proper definition. And so I want you to describe blockchain, how you got into it, and then give us some of your background as well.
Wonderful. Well, blockchain is a method of data storage. It's a distributive ledger. I guess the best way to describe it, if you could picture a giant spreadsheet that is duplicated thousands of times across a network of computers, and then imagine that spreadsheet was updated by those computers on a very regular basis, then you'd have a basic understanding of blockchain. It's a different way of storing data than we've had in the past. So information held on the blockchain, it exists as kind of a shared and continually reconciled database. And this is a way for using a network that has some obvious advantages. The blockchain database isn't stored in any single location, meaning that the records are kept in kind of a public and easily verifiable way. That's got some serious advantages in security that we'll talk about later. You want to have a system, ideally, that doesn't have a single point of failure, and this doesn't. And it also doesn't have a single location for data to be stored that can be hacked or abused in some way. And every day we see hacking on the news, and this is a system for getting rid of that problem. So the data is hosted by oftentimes millions of computers simultaneously, and the data is accessible to those users. So the way that blockchain works, so as a transaction occurs, the parties that own those spreadsheets agree to the details, and it's encoded into a block of digital data, and it's uniquely signed and identified. So each block is connected to the one before it and the one after it, and it creates an irrefutable, irreversible, immutable chain. That's hence the name blockchain. So the blocks are chained together, preventing any block from being altered or a block being inserted between the first and second block, etc. So it's very much like the internet. It's got a built-in robustness because storing blocks of information across a network, you don't have a single point of failure, and it can't be controlled by any single entity, making it much more secure. And I hope that makes sense.
Oh, that's awesome. That's actually one of the best descriptions I've heard someone detail, because I've used the spreadsheet as an example before, and then people get cross-eyed. So is there actually a software, like one sort of technology that holds blockchain together? Or if I came to you with a mortgage project and somebody else came to you with a cannabis project, do we all use the same structure, or do we have our individual portals? How does that all work? These are the questions I get and have had for months and months. So I'm just going to keep asking away.
Okay. So there's no industry standard yet, and there's no off-the-shelf software that you can purchase to convert your business to blockchain. It's a little more complex than that. So what normally happens is an industry will find a need for blockchain, and they will develop software for that industry, and other folks in the industry will adopt it. And so the blockchain software, though the spreadsheet in the back end will be very similar between a cannabis company and a bank, there are a myriad of differences in the functions that need to take place. So as an example, if you're in the cannabis field, you're going to want to track the product from seed to consumption, because there are a lot of constabulary issues there. There's a lot of cash involved in that business usually that you need to track and make sure that it's not being absconded with. There's a lot of product theft. There's people substituting products that might not be premium quality as expected. So the blockchain provides you with an immutable, indelible record of every step of the line. Whereas with a financial services company, let's say you're buying and selling shares of stock, that's a much different concept. You're checking to make sure that you have the stock available. You're making sure that the seller is agreed to the price. You're making sure that the buyer is agreed to the price. You're matching them up and transferring the funds. So the spreadsheet's the same, but the graphical user interface is completely different, and it kind of needs to be customized by industry and often by company in that industry.
Awesome. So people talk about, how do I get into it? How do I invest in it? What's your answer to the folks that are looking, saying, well, I want to get in? I mean, cannabis has found its path. There's hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars being invested in cannabis, across the world at this point. How do people get into this investment? I mean, is there a passive structure? Is it industry specific?
There are a couple of different ways to play this depending on how deeply you want to participate in that particular technology. One way is to pick companies to invest in that have already adopted or are in the process of adopting blockchain. So as an example, if you're picking banks, if you want to finance, put your money in the bank stocks, Bank of America already has patents on blockchain. They'll probably be the first major bank to switch to a completely blockchain system. That might be a better choice than the local credit union or some outfit, because they're going to be able to announce that, hey, we're the unhackable bank. Your money is totally safe with us. We won't have to worry about hackers with us. And because it's blockchain, their fees are going to be much lower because blockchain is significantly less expensive to run than the cloud. So maybe investing in companies that have adopted the blockchain. Another option would be is to participate in industry by offering your own tokens for your own services. So, and let's talk about cannabis real quick. I have a client that had their bank account closed, not because they're in the cannabis business, but because they were selling a product that had a marijuana leaf on it. And their bank happened to see that product and that product packaging, and they shut their account down.
Yep.
So it's exceedingly difficult for people in a business that is legal in some areas, not legal in other areas, for them to transfer value. Hence, you have a few cannabis coins coming out. And it's going to be difficult to choose which ones you want to invest your money in. If you look at the car industry here in the United States back in the early 1900s, I believe there were 70 different automobile manufacturers. By the beginning of World War II, we only had 4 left. Right. And I think you're going to see that kind of an industry shakeout. But if you find the right one to invest in, the rewards are extreme.
So marry this up. Actually, before we marry this up to some crypto and the ICOs and how it's being used, because I think it's a heavy attachment to it. And what you hear me interviewing, and actually I'm going to ask it, and then I want you your background of what inspired you to even get in here, and more a little bit about your company. But to me, how I got introduced to this, and I don't know how many thousands of people that have given feedback, is so many people have lumped blockchain and crypto together. It's clearly the blockchain is the technology significance behind just that one space. So separate those two for us in your conversation.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest hurdle I have to get by, is telling people that blockchain is not Bitcoin and Bitcoin is not blockchain. The blockchain is a technology that is utilized in financial services, especially in cryptocurrency, because it's really well suited for it. Every year you have $400 billion transferred internationally from one country to another. With the standard systems, it often takes 2 weeks for money to be transferred from a parent in New Delhi or in Delhi, wherever, to send money to their child at a university in California, it's a very difficult and arduous program. If their child calls them up and says, hey, my car got towed and I need $300, they're not getting that money immediately. However, with cryptos, they can have the money in 35 seconds. It's a significantly different concept. And obviously, the financial services industry lends itself to crypto, and it's really got a big impact and a lot of opportunity there. But we got into blockchain for a totally different reason. We do high-end mathematics, and we got into blockchain for the purpose of industry and commerce and government. As an example, we're building a rocket, or part of a rocket. And what we wanted to do was track the supply chain on every single component that goes into that rocket. And here's why. Have you ever heard of the Stuxnet virus?
Yeah.
So in Iran, they had a number of centrifuges that were being utilized, we believe, for the manufacture of weaponized uranium. Some country, it might have been us, it might have been Israel, we don't know for sure, came out with a virus that was somehow worked into their centrifuge system, probably through a laptop from somebody on vacation, that caused their centrifuges to go absolutely haywire. And they lost millions of dollars and, more importantly, years worth of work because of that. And that woke up a lot of people to the opportunity of sabotage through the internet and through viruses and such. So we wanted to blockchain all the components so that we could track them back to manufacturer, or back to, as an example, the metal, what mine it came from, who smelted it, who prepared it, who turned it into a component, and how it wound up, who delivered it, all that, everything, A to Z, all on the blockchain. Because blockchain is so economical and so easy to work with, you can do this now. You couldn't do it on the cloud, not without extreme expense. But you're saving a lot of money by going with blockchain, and it just makes sense now. It's a new technology that makes things aware. So we got into blockchain in order to track supply chains, and for we have some medical clients that were using blockchain for medical records, because it's extremely HIPAA compliant, because data only exists when you're looking at it. It's quantum in nature. So the way that we set up our blockchain, if you don't have a badge or a key fob, the data doesn't exist. When the data, I know that sounds crazy, but the data only exists when you're looking at it. When you put your key fob in, your system will pull the data out of those many ledgers and create your desktop and create your data. But when you walk away, your data is gone. It's encrypted, shredded, and dispersed out into the ether. So you could probably see the advantages to that. If you're got a North Korean hacker that's trying to get your data, the data doesn't exist unless you're sitting there looking at it, which makes it infinitely more difficult for a hacker to get the data. So we talk about different technologies that are going to, maybe change the world. Smartphones that are going to change the world. Cell phones are going to change the world. The cloud is going to change the world. This technology is going to turn the world over. It is such an impact in financial services, in data security, you just name it. And you don't have to be in finances for this to be affecting you. Any part of your life is going to be blockchain. Your medical records, your financial records, your school records. We're doing a program with a major aircraft manufacturer right now where we're blockchaining the data from their flight tests, because it's now immutable and they can collect much more data because it's so much cheaper to collect data this way. So everything you do is going to be blockchain. It's just a matter of time.
I know. I love it. So talk a little bit more just about, you're a mathematician, right? That's what you do by trade.
Yes.
It's obvious to me how you get into this, but what was your first introduction and project into this?
I had a friend of mine whose website was hacked, and someone came in and encrypted his database. And whoever encrypted it asked for the individual to send some Bitcoins. And I'm like, what is this? And he, of course, I know about computers and such, so came by and said, what do I do? And obviously we didn't wind up sending the Bitcoin out because it was untraceable and don't like paying, and I was able to fix the system anyways, right? But most people aren't that lucky. But I was intrigued by the Bitcoin system and what it did, and I started doing some research. And then we found that the technology behind it was actually very impressive and could be adapted for good purposes. right? Not just for transferring money between bad guys. And we started working on it a couple of years ago, and we found applications immediately, and we have developed some absolutely fantastic software for military use, for aerospace, for medical use, and it's a little bit of financial services stuff, and it just keeps expanding. And we've been lucky in that we got in early, and we had the minds that understood the technology. So we got into it because we stumbled across it trying to help somebody, and became interested in potential for good in this. And it is going to absolutely make the world a much better place. You don't wake up in the morning, drive to work, listen to the radio, and hear your credit bureau was hacked this morning. Sorry, right? You don't get an email from your bank saying, oh, sorry, your credit card information has been distributed to the dark net, right? All that stuff goes away, and it's going to be a much, much better world because of this technology. The crypto side of it, we've delved in a little bit. We do some mining ourselves because when we don't have our computers running standard computational fluid dynamics or some multi-physics engineering math, we put them to use mining coins, Ethereum and such, because those computers might as well be working, right?
Yeah. So, Don, I've just met you really through a friend because my son went to Jacksonville University. I love how connections all happen. So, very quickly, we invited you to be our expert in this conversation. So October 17 to 20, we're having an event that is crypto, cannabis, blockchain related off Wall Street. That'll be in Las Vegas. And then in November, you're coming for our table members, which are higher level mastermind folks. And that's November 5, 6, 7 in Palm Springs. So hundreds of people gathering for this conversation. So talk a little bit about, this is like a great overview. And you're going to go into more nuts and bolts and detail. So just give some highlights of why folks need to come and see us in October, November.
Well, one of the most amazing opportunities out there is pharmaceuticals for what we do, and specifically the new, the marijuana-related industries, for a couple of reasons. One is they require a significant amount of data acquisition, from who handled it to where it's stored at, what temperatures it's stored at, such as that. And I would like to address, since that's a focus of today's modern economy, that's the next big entrepreneurial opportunity, I'd like to focus on why blockchain is going to make that a viable industry. And I'd also like to talk about some of the cryptocurrencies out there. There are a lot of folks that speculate in that, and that's fine. But you need to be careful because some of them are real and some of them aren't. And that would be something that would be of value to understand what makes them worthwhile and what is vaporware. And basically, there's usually more questions than I have comments. People will say, hey, I have this issue and that issue, and I don't mind answering those. So is that what you were looking for?
That's absolutely what I was looking for. And I think there's just a lot of folks, even on the technical side, who want to engage. So again, just like the cannabis side, which everyone that's been listening to me for the last year and a half now, that we talk a lot about what's called the picks and shovels, right? The things around the industry that are going to make people a lot of money. So I look forward to you being there alone, just giving us great data, and then on expert panels where we're going to have that Q&A and that time for folks to ask questions, seek opportunities. Again, most of our opportunities are either income or investment related, where people are going to ask a lot of those questions. So look forward to having you there. And any last words of wisdom for this moment while we are together with the folks on the podcast?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity. I really love your work, and we're really enthusiastic and energetic about life and about the new opportunities that come to us every day. And I think once your listeners get to understand blockchain, they'll catch that excitement because it is going to absolutely change the world. And some people are going to make a lot of money on it because if you get in early, just like apps with smartphones or getting in early on Microsoft, if you get in early, you can take advantage of that absolutely phenomenal growth we're going to have. So I absolutely recommend people studying this a little bit before the meeting in October, and at least to the point where they can have some questions as to how they can implement it in their lives.
So that's great. I'm going to ask then one more question. You said study it. Do you have some websites or some what I call valid intel of where they would go study without just continuing to get a lot of chaos? Because right now, the communication chaos out there is heavy.
Yeah, maybe stay away from YouTube on a lot of this stuff. IBM has a wonderful website that has a lot about blockchain. A lot of the stuff that you get on YouTube is absolutely inaccurate. And it's usually posted by folks that would like to sell a coin or some type of investment, and the information that they're giving is not accurate. So IBM is a good one. Check your major corporations. They're all going to be switching to blockchain. And that will give you a basic idea of how the system works and what it is. And then you can kind of filter that down to how you can use it in your business or how you can profit from their changes, from what they're doing.
Awesome. Well, Don, thank you. And thanks, Matt, behind the scenes for bringing Don to our community. And those of you that are out there, if you're interested in learning more and just staying tuned, this won't be our first conversation or our last conversation with Don and his team. And go to askloral.com, ASKLORAL. And right there, I need you to put in your name, your phone number, information. If you want to make a request, ask a question. If you would like a private meeting, if you have a project, I know these guys would love to possibly bid or entertain or educate you on how to get a project up and in the space. So again, you're listening to Laurel's Real Money Talks, where we're bringing valuable conversations about money to you. And if you're interested in the Vegas or Palm Springs event, just email directly to Gabe, Gabe, at liveoutloud.com. And we'll get you on our system and get you set up to come and be in the conversations live. So, Don, thank you for today and all your time. And the rest of you will be back on another podcast next week.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Real Money Talks podcast. Your host has been Laurel Langmeyer, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View. Want to learn more about off-Wall Street investing, tax strategies, and multi-million-dollar business strategies? Visit liveoutloud.com/podcast for past episodes, show notes, and resources. For some special wealth-building gifts only for Laurel's podcast listeners, visit liveoutloud.com/podcast gifts. Do you have a burning question for Laurel? Visit asklaurel.com to submit your question, and it may just be covered on a podcast episode. So stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to get new episodes every week.